Yes, hi. I am calling this number because I saw it on a bathroom wall. Seeing if you're Brandi.
Welcome to another episode of Brandi is Going to Hell. Technically, we're a month into quarantine, at least in the New York City area. And as you will hear later in the show, you really pick up what you put down energy-wise in times like this. My mentality is, right, I get a lot more sleep, and what can I create while I have this time? I mean, granted, I am working during the day, but the after hours and the weekends, I'm kind of like, right, what can I do? What can I experiment with to keep productive and keep sharp? Last week was my 30th birthday, and I think I was just absolutely going bonkers in the brain. I decided to start an art project, which is also an art project meshed with my vinyl collection. Here's the concept. I pick a record from my collection, random, or whatever I'm feeling as I'm browsing through the titles. Next, I do a little doodle on this very cool notepad that my friend Katie got me for Christmas. It is a Melissa and Doug Toys scratch art notepad. So on the top there is a black matte film. Underneath there is very colorful paper. And I just scratch away. I'll draw whatever the fuck I want. The last time I drew anything to some substantial value was when I was in 8th grade art class. So it's kind of a doozy. Lastly, I start finding cool clippings from this magazine collection called Reminisce magazine that I gathered from my grandmother. I always was super excited when she would read through the magazines and then hand them over to me. I am very obsessed with everything vintage, retro, and what have you. So I strategically pick whatever pops out and whatever kind of goes with whatever I drew. I guess it's all kind of whatever I'm feeling I'm drawing. So perhaps it's subconscious, but either way, it all gets birthed on this little 3.5 by 3.5, that's inches, art piece. I think it's pretty trippy, and to be honest, I'm kind of proud that I made something. I took my focus off of, oh my God, I'm not running enough. Oh my God, am I eating healthy? Oh my God, am I getting enough work done during the day? Oh my God, how come I'm not podcasting? Kind of thoughts out of my head, and just channel that 35, however long a record is, 35 minutes to 40 minutes of just doing that. I'll listen to the record front to back, and, it's all on the Instagram account. That's at lollipopsaccord. I've only made 3 of them, but, it's cool. I pair it with music, and it's just a fun little escapism. The other thing is back on that podcast train, baby. The timing of this episode's guest could not have been better. My boyfriend just ordered a guitar to keep him busy in the apartment, and it just so happens that his first guitar teacher was Rob Harris of Jamiroquai, who is going to be on this episode of Brandi is Going to Hell. And what makes it even crazier is that my boyfriend is also teaching me how to play guitar, which means I think I'm technically learning from the best. Rob Harris has been the guitarist for Jamiroquai for roughly 20 years. And his current project, TRIONIQ, just released their second EP, Duh, which came out about 3.5 weeks ago. And you can listen to it everywhere you listen to your tunes. It's so smooth, and I highly recommend it. In addition to Jamiroquai and TRIONIQ, Rob Harris has a hefty list of other wonderful things he's been involved in. His credits include, but are not limited to, Beverly Knight, Kylie Minogue, Don Airey, Katy Perry, Robbie Williams, the Lego Batman soundtrack, Kanye West, and the list goes on and on. This man has been, a session guitarist for quite some time, and he shares some lovely stories, weaving in and out of all of his work. It is a reunion of acquaintances on Brandi is Going to Hell today with Rob Harris, considering the last time I saw him was in catering at PNC in Holmdel for Deep Purple a few years ago. So without further ado, Rob Harris of Jamiroquai and TRIONIQ on Brandi is Going to Hell. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Rob.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm all right. Yeah, just about as good as can be in quarantine.
Very, very strange times.
It is. It is. Thank you so much for calling in and doing this with me.
No problem at all. No probs. How's Mike? Is he all right?
Yeah, he's good. He told me to say hi. I ban him when I do interviews. I told him to go other places.
That's cool. It's probably for the best. Bless him.
Yeah.
Cool. So you're all okay over there, though, right?
Yeah, we're all good. I mean, I'm lucky enough to work from home, so
Right,
I'm
okay.
grateful for that. Very grateful. Mike's,
Right.
A good cook, and
Yeah.
starting to teach me
Yeah.
guitar now. So I guess I'm learning from the best.
I did see that. That's great.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I saw your Grammy award, so congrats on that.
Yeah, it came through today. I was it did cheer me up a little bit. I was kind of going, I knew about it ages ago, obviously, but they sort of said, "Oh, we've won a Grammy." I was like, "Oh, nice!" And then you have to send away for it, and they have to send you it. So it's not like they go, "Hey, man, here's your Grammy," but it was good for me. I was like, "Okay, I'll take it."
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So that was the Chemical Brothers for No Geography, and
Yes.
how did that come about?
That is a couple of producers in the UK that I work with quite a lot. Two guys, Hal Ritson and Richard Adlam, and they get involved in quite a lot of records, recreating things. So if people use samples, they tend to recreate the sample. So you have to go in and basically listen to the sample that they're using, and then in this case, I had to play guitar and bass and replicate as closely as possible to the original recording. And I do quite a lot of that kind of work for them. These two guys, it's really useful. There's probably 2 or 3 of those that come through a month that I play on. But that's the first one I've won a Grammy for, so it was quite
cool.
nice.
Congrats.
Yeah. I was quite pleased.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you've got a lot going on, it seems, even though you're in quarantine. Your band, TRIONIQ, released your second EP, like 3.5 weeks ago. Firstly, it's super smooth. I love
timing,
it.
Right?
Yeah.
Great timing.
Well, everybody's sitting in and ready to consume, so that's perfect. How did that project come about?
Well, that's myself, the bass player Paul Turner from Jamiroquai, who's a great friend of mine, Ivan Van Hetten, who is a keyboard player, trumpeter, who's also a great friend of mine. We met at different times. We were working. Each of us has worked with the band Sister Sledge, so we met through that basically, and we did the first EP quite some time ago. We just, I just come off the back of doing a couple of records for people that I'd spent like a year on making an album, writing and producing an album with a certain artist, and it kind of just fell flat on its face quite quickly, just due to sort of the artist not being quite on board with what we thought he wanted to do. So I wanted to do something that was very quick and very kind of akin to how music used to be made years ago, where people would just get in a room, come up with an idea. Someone would have an idea, you'd flesh it out and then record it. So I've been involved in quite a lot of albums where it was long-winded and production was, it took months to produce a song and stuff like that. And I just wanted stuff that was, let's just go in a room and play, not correct anything, maybe fix a mistake if someone's made a mistake, but let's not tune vocals. Let's not edit the drums. Let's, not do too many overdubs so you can't perform it live. So it came from that, really.
Wow. I mean, you posted the live video the other day, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It sounds so amazing.
Well, thank you. We kind of write it so it's playable. There's only 4 or 5 guys in a room, and you want to make the same sound live that you make on the recording. So luckily we get to work with some great people. The drummer on those sessions is a great guy called Ryan Aston, and the vocalist was a guy called Sean Williams, who I've known a long time and who's a real good friend of mine. And we just all get on. There's no politics. Everyone just goes in and plays and has a good time and then goes home.
Yeah.
We don't labor over anything too much. It's not like we go in and edit the drums down or do comp takes together, and it's just we play the track as live as we possibly can get it, and that's the end result. That's what we're after, really.
Excellent. And that project's been around since 2015?
Yeah, it was then.
I think that's when the first EP came out, so I was just wondering. Okay, cool.
The first one came out, unfortunately, just as the first one was being released, I went through a divorce. So,
oh no.
It kind of came out, and then I was aware, I was sort of elsewhere mentally, dealing with that kind of change of life, and then we just rekindled it recently, just due to life, basically just becoming a little bit more relaxed, and just let's get together. We got together, quickly came up with 6 tunes, went in and recorded them. And then, of course, these days, sort of a little bit behind the curve, we realise, well, actually, nowadays, everyone wants to see it rather than just hear it. So we decided to go and book a studio and re-record them again live, so everyone could see it happening as we did it, sort of thing.
Yeah, and everybody's sitting at home, so now they have the time to watch it. It's great.
Yeah. I'm actually sat working. We're still working now. We're sort of collaborating, everyone's remotely recording and writing together now, which is seems to be the way that we're going to have to do it for a little while. But it's still with very much the same spirit of let's just do this. Let's not overthink it too much. Okay, it might not be the most amazing take. As long as it feels good, let's just go with it. That's very much where we're at the moment with this project.
Perfect.
And it's a mixture of instrumental and vocal tunes. So it's just kind of going back to how records used to be made. That's what I'm into. That's what I listen to, really.
Yeah.
I listen to that kind of music. So that's what I'm up for.
You seem to also just be keeping busy in isolation in general. You did that PRS isolation track.
Yes.
That was cool. So
yeah,
how did you guys mesh that all together? Because it's clearly all different recordings. Did you freeball it or?
How it happened was Piers Mortimer. His father runs PRS UK. PRS Guitars, I think PRS Europe, and his father Gavin is the head of over here, I believe, and Piers has a studio in the complex that PRS runs out of the UK, so I know Piers quite well, and I've done a few online videos for them, and he just said, look, working on this jam track idea to get some PRS players together, not together, but together to sort of perform on this track together. I'm going to send you a drum track and a bass part over. Just come up with some changes, come up with some chords and play on it. And I'm completely happy doing that. I didn't do any solos or anything on that track, but I'm completely fine being the guy that just does the chord stuff. And of course, Simon McBride and Jacko Jaksic and Piers and Ace from Skunk Anansie all played on top of it, and they did an amazing job. And it was just a little bit of fun. I think it's a great thing that it takes people's minds off what's going on, even if it does it for 3 minutes.
Yeah,
it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Oh, my other half just brought me in a glass of wine.
Glass of rosé, darling.
Glass of rosé. Yeah, so it was just fun, quite easy. Happened over a couple of days, and obviously nowadays you have to film everything you do. So it took a bit of time to just do take after take to get one where you've not messed up enough. So you've got to take the whole thing. Yeah, it's just nice. Hopefully that I can imagine there's going to be quite a lot more of that stuff going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, now's the time more than ever to really just create and put it out there and have people enjoy it, with all the news going on. That's why I have you on my podcast right now.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's just nice I'm doing it myself. I don't watch. I'm not watching the news more than once a day. I'll just watch it. I'll get the headlines in the morning, find out what's going on, and I don't want to look at it again for the rest of the day. I just want to find out where we're heading, and then I try and keep it out of my mind after that, because it takes a lot of energy to figure out where we're going to be, what's going to happen. There's all these completely tragic stories about people losing their lives, and it's very heavy, very heavy to think about. So if you can take someone's mind away from that for a short amount of time, I say just do it.
Yeah, and you're also doing these wonderful chord a day updates.
I did that. I did that for about eight or 9 days.
Yeah, and then you fell off the ship. What the heck?
I fell off the shelf just because other things came in. I had some sessions that came in, and then my other half has got me gardening out in the garden very regularly. So it's something, I might do some different things, post some other things up, and I thought about maybe just doing a little riff and saying, this is a riff in 92 BPM. Go ahead, if you want to play something to it, just do it and post up your video of you playing along, and let's see if we can build up a little thing. It's just anything to just keep people being creative. And there's a lot of people sort of sitting in. I'm in a very lucky situation that I've got a house with a garden, and I live right next to a field, so I can go out and walk my dogs in the morning. But
I was going to ask you about your doggies.
Yeah, I do realise there's a lot of people are sat on their own in an apartment, and they can't. As soon as they step out of their apartment, they're around other people, and that must be petrifying at this time. So anything to keep people sane or brighten up their day in whatever way you can do it, even if that's what it is. I think we all need that now more than ever.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for doing that. So it's great that you are.
Well, a lot of people are, and I take a lot of, I do notice it. That we have this guy over here who's incredible. This Joe Wicks character. I don't know whether you've heard of him. He's a fitness dude, and believe me, I've not done any of his classes. I wouldn't last 2 minutes, to be honest. But he now is he's an online coach. I think he's called the Body Coach on Instagram or something like that. And he's just a young guy who's getting people moving and doing exercise. And he's been enlisted by the schools in the UK because all the kids are at school. So they have a daily PE lesson with him. And and I know probably a lot of women quite like doing the exercise classes too, because he's quite a good-looking guy, So, but it's that kind of thing. It gives someone something to do, gives someone something to think about and do. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So you've been with Jamiroquai for 19 years.
Yeah.
That is a long time.
It's a long time.
How did that glass slipper wind up fitting you?
I had to audition for the band, and I was at the time I was working for an artist in the UK. His name was Mark Owen, and there was a boy band. Well, it still is actually a boy band in the UK called Take That, and they broke up for a period, and they all went their separate ways and had solo careers. And I was making a record for one of the guys. His name was this guy Mark Owen. So I was sort of ensconced in a studio up in the Lake District for about a year making that record. And then right at the end of the record being finished, I got a call from someone saying that they'd put me up for an audition for Jamiroquai. So I initially was like, okay, well, I'm never going to get it. I'm going to go for it. I'm never going to get it. Then I took myself out of going for it. I was like, I don't think I can handle it if I don't get it. I don't think I can take the rejection. And, but a month had passed and the audition time came up, and I went, and I learned at the time they had 5 albums out. So I learned every song off every album, just because they'd only asked me to learn 4, but I figured, I've always been this way. If I really want the job, I better make sure that I know what I'm doing.
Right?
Yeah. And I went in, and lo and behold, when I went into the audition, the 4 songs that they'd asked me to learn, they kind of, it was a month earlier, so they'd forgotten what they'd asked me to learn. So they started just throwing songs at me. And luckily I had done my homework, so I was able to sort of jump on and join in and jam things. And then JK likes the band to keep flexible. So, their arrangements can change at any time. And he started sort of singing me ideas while we were playing, singing me new lines. He wanted me to hear me play, and I sort of jumped on those ideas and started playing. And I think he was looking for someone that could play the funk stuff, but also have a slightly rockier edge as well. And I just I was reading the room basically and seeing what the band wanted, and I just ended up getting through to the next stage of auditions. I think there was about 58, 60 people went for the first round of auditions. I got through to the second round where it was just myself and another guy, and I had him killed, and then I got the job, so.
Remarkable
I didn't
story.
actually do that.
The new Netflix documentary on Rob Harris. How he became a part of Jamiroquai. Very cool. So what is that writing process like compared to, your process with TRIONIQ or,
Yeah. So with the band, with Jamiroquai, when I joined, I just assumed I was going to be a live player. I thought, they might use me on the gigs, and I didn't think past that really. And then I'd been sort of around. I think I did a couple of shows actually, and then Jay called me one day and said, "Oh, do you want to come up to the house?" Because he had his studios at his house, and I went up and not really knowing what was happening really. And then that night we sort of hung out all night, and I ended up co-writing with Jay 4 tunes, which were for the next upcoming album. And they're just little ideas that come out, and then Jay writes all melodies and all lyrics. But he does work with people to sort of help put the song together, and chordal direction and riffs and stuff like that. So you'll get a co-write on that basis. So it's you're sort of you're writing more as a facilitator for Jay. He's a great lyricist and he writes great melodies. So you're helping him realize the song. So, and that's different. Every writing situation is different. You'll have that with some other writers as well, but sometimes you'll be able to chip in with lyrics and direction of the production and stuff like that. But he's very good at choosing people. I want this kind of track, so I'm going to work with you on this one, and I want this kind of track, so I'm going to work with you on this one. And I kind of did 3 albums in that way with him. That was Funk Odyssey, Rock Dust Light Star, and Dynamite. I didn't get involved in the writing on the last album because that was done purely by Matt Johnson, the keyboard player in the band, who co-produced the record with Jay.
Oh, cool. That's very interesting.
And that's a very, you can hear, I don't know, that album's a very keyboard based record. It's very synth, very sort of programmed synths and drums and stuff like that going on. And but I wasn't involved in the writing of that one, but still got to play on all of the tracks. And it's just how it goes. I kind of, if he wants to do some writing and he wants me to go up and hang out and see what happens, then I'm available for that. But I don't sort of want to just do it just so I've got some songs on the record, sort of thing.
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, in general, Jamiroquai, TRIONIQ, those are your projects that you work with, but you also have quite the resume, as you could say, with credits including but not limited to Beverly Knight, Kylie Minogue, Don Airey, Katy Perry, Robbie Williams. You did the Lego Batman soundtrack. Saw Kanye West on your website too. Is there anything that you want to highlight that was unique or interesting, or any very admirable moments or people that you worked with like over the years?
I always wanted to be a session musician. When I started learning guitar, my second lesson, I was taught what a session musician was. My teacher, Colin Medlock, taught me about what it meant to be a session musician, and I was like, oh, okay. I never really wanted to be in a famous band, or I always liked the idea of turning up to a studio and okay, what are we playing today? How can we make this music today? You know, what's the song like? What style is it in? So I always wanted to play in different styles, and that was kind of what I liked about music, is that there was a lot of variation in it. So I have been lucky enough to work with lots of different styles of music. You know, it's been some strange ones. So you know, one of my earliest things, I do remember turning up to Don Airy's house. He lived down the road from me. I think I was 17 years old. I sent him a cassette of me playing, because you know I knew about who he was, and you know, and the music he'd played, and I sent him a little 4-track demo of me, you know, something I'd written, and we eventually ended up speaking on the phone, and he was like, well, why don't you come round next week on Tuesday afternoon and we'll play, bring your guitar and we'll just play. So Don introduced me to so much music that I'd never heard of before, you know, things like Mahavishnu Orchestra, and things like some Chick Corea records and Colosseum 2, which was a band that he was involved in. And I used to, you know, it was a roast, basically. He would really put me under pressure to, you know, it's not easy music to play. I was listening to pop music and funk, and he really sort of showed me a different side to music that was like, come on, you know, we want you. You've got to be on now. You've got to play now. You've got to be up to the game, up to the job now. And I learned a lot from that. To the point, I played on one of his albums a couple of years ago, and I can't read music to save my life. I'm terrible. I can read really slowly, but there was a piece that I think it was called "Difficult to Play," which was based on "Difficult to Cure," and he got me 5 sheets of music all taped together and put it out on the stand, and all it said was, and it was blank. There was no notes on it at all, but all it said was "Good luck." And it was really difficult. It was complicated music, you know, and but he sort of coaches you through it by giving you encouragement, but also it's almost like he doesn't want perfection. He wants energy from you. Yeah. He wants a bit of firepower. So that was a massive learning curve for me, because that meant that when I was going into other studios, I was used to working under pressure and having to come up with the goods and not fluster too much, you know, or also go, actually, no, I'm not the guy for this. And that was a massive thing for me. So, you know, when I turn up to do session for people, quite often you're walking into a room and there's 4 or 5 people that you don't know, and there's a lot riding on you being there and being the right guy for the job. And that really helped me to just keep calm and read the room, sort of look around and go, okay, who's the guy that I should be listening to the most? Who's the guy that's got the ideas? When is the time for me to suggest something? You know, and I think I got a lot of that from Don.
Yeah, thrown to the wolves real quick, and then, you know, that's the best way to learn.
Oh man, and it was so much fun as well, and you know, you could tell when you could tell when he liked something. You could tell when he's like, "No, come on, you can do a bit better than that." And then when you think of the people that he worked with, you go, "Wow, you know that I'm in the same room with the guy that worked with that guy," and you kind of go, "Okay." And there's a sort of almost a, which I really do think is missing today in music. This kind of, it's not pressure. It is pressure, but it's good pressure. It's almost like, come on, let's give it 100%, rather than everyone knowing that every take they do, it doesn't really matter that much. You know, I can make a new playlist on this one, or I can fix that bit later. I think it's an important art that we shouldn't forget about, really. I think it still exists, actually, in places like Nashville, and you know, those guys they're at the top of their game. You know, absolutely incredible musicians over there. So yeah,
very cool. That's Yeah, that's awesome.
But the other side of that is I have worked with I did work with a producer once that had me playing the same song for 2 days in a row, like 6 hours a day, just monotonous, playing the same 4 chords to a click track. No drums, nothing, no vocal, nothing. And that was my learning. That was and I was playing it. I knew I was playing it correctly. I knew I was playing it in time. But I learned that that's when a producer doesn't quite know what he wants yet, doesn't know, and he just wants you to waste your time until he works out. And I've also learned that that's something that you kind of go, okay, well, I'll just stick around and see what happens with this. You know, you either jump out the boat or stay in it and carry on rowing, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you're there and you're getting paid and everything, I guess. So it's
Yeah.
like, all right, like,
Yeah.
let's see how this goes, right?
Let's see how it goes. Indeed.
What are some recent projects you're working on, playing on, or even produced that you can share?
Well, I'm currently working on new TRIONIQ material. I get sessions in, every couple of weeks. Something will come in and I'll play on it. Lots of remote stuff, people developing their own material. What did I play on recently? Well, stuff that's already come out. I was on the new. There's an artist over in the UK called James Arthur. I played on his new album. 4 tracks on that actually. It's just whatever sessions come through the door. Really, I'm doing quite a lot of. Most of it's remote now, obviously. I have a couple of producers that will send me over stuff, and it has taken a while to get used to doing sessions remotely because, of course, you don't get the feedback straight away. You don't have someone saying there's no thumbs up at the end.
Yeah.
You have to trust that you send it off, and usually you'll hear something back, and you only know that it's been okay if they ask you to do the next one. So.
That's very interesting. So how does all that get fielded? Are you kind of like your own agent, or is like certain producers you work with all the time that give you that work, or
they come out of nowhere sometimes?
Oh, wow.
I work. So the guy, there's a music composer called Lorne Balfe who was involved in things like the soundtrack to Inception. He did the Lego Batman thing. He did. What else has he done? He did a movie called Six Underground, which is a new Netflix release, a Ryan Reynolds movie. Now, he's from Scotland, but what I believe is he works mostly in California, in LA. And I got a message from him out of the blue from his assistant, actually, saying, "Are you available to record?" Now, I've never met him. I've worked with him for the last, on and off, very sporadically for the last 3 or 4 years. I've only had maybe 2 or 3 phone conversations with him, and they just send you over a piece of music. Can you record? It's all done at home, and you send the parts back, and then it either ends up being on the project or not on the project.
Wow.
I was involved in one thing where it was just I assumed it was an advert for Volvo or something, because it just had Volvo written on the files that arrived, and I played on it and did some electric guitar parts, and they requested some nylon string classical guitar parts on it as well. And then about 3 years later, two or 3 years later, I spoke to a friend of mine, a drummer over here called Ash Sohn, who said, "Oh, did you do the Volvo thing?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I did that." And it ended up that it was actually for Hans Zimmer, and it was the theme to the World Cup.
Wow.
It was the theme tune for the World Cup. I'd seen it, and I didn't even realize I was on it. I didn't even know it was me.
Wow.
So yeah, you kind of get these weird things out of the blue, and people just go play on this, and you don't. I suppose because they're so busy and they have to do so much stuff, they don't have time to come back and go, "That was great." Or the only time you're going to hear from them if it's not what they want. And as a session musician working in 2020, you have to realize that that's a good thing. If they're not coming back to you, that's mostly a good thing. It's either really awful and they're never going to contact you again, or it's a good thing because it means they're getting on with it and they're now on the next thing and they might contact you for that. So
wow.
but
So that can be very interesting then, I'm guessing. This is going to sound very naive of me, but like, so you get paid for that one session and then
yeah.
no matter where it goes, you don't really get royalties then. It's like a one and done
No.
kind of situation. Oh, okay.
No, over in the UK, you do get if it's released, you get, and it is performed on the radio or on the TV. You get a thing called a PPL payment over here. So there is a form of royalty, but you don't get a residual. Well, I suppose that would be a residual. That's what you call it over there. I don't know if that happens over in the States. Actually, I'm not sure, but I do know that anything I play on that comes out over in the States, I don't get a royalty for radio play, whereas everywhere else I do.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not sure about that 100%, but you get it over here. So I will receive, every time a track gets played on the radio, I will receive minus 2% of a penny, probably. It's a tiny amount, but it does build up and becomes a bit more worthwhile. So, but the initial session is about, you just get your fee for the session.
Yeah, that's so mind-blowing with the Volvo thing, though, how it's just like, oh, you eventually found out what it was on and you didn't even know it was yourself. That's
Yeah, no, it happens a lot. But in turn, I played on that movie 6 Underground. I did probably 6 or 7 pieces for that. And I was on the road at the time, actually. I recorded a lot of stuff while I was on tour for it. And when the film came out, I listened through to the soundtrack. I couldn't hear anything that I'd done on it because you don't know. There's so many things that go on with these projects that, they change the sound. It's such a big deal. They change the soundtrack constantly. So, but then you get another email a couple of months after it's out asking you to do another job. So it doesn't mean that you've been cut because it's your fault you didn't do a good job. It just means that maybe it wasn't right for the film. Or maybe it wasn't right for the project. There's so many other things at play that you can't take it personally. You just go, okay, well, that's how it is. It's part of the job that you do, part of the job that a session musician has.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, for my interviews, I also like to do a couple like silly rapid fire questions before we pinch it all together.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you wanted to talk about more so along your projects, or?
Other than walking my dogs every day and my girlfriend making me do lots of gardening, I'm just sat in my studio playing, doing a little bit of writing a few, finishing off a few ideas that I've had. No, there's nothing sort of pending release-wise that's coming out other than the tracks I'm playing on for other producers that, they'll come out when they come out. But no, I absolutely love what I do. I love it when I get a track through and can you play on this? It actually fills me with quite a bit of excitement.
That's great.
So I get to play my guitar all day long, and I must admit, though, I am really looking forward to getting out and doing a gig.
Yeah, I bet.
the village that I live in, I did just before we went into lockdown. I spoke to the landlord of the pub, my local pub. Mm-hmm. We were discussing having a monthly music night, and me being able to invite people in to play and put a little gig together once a month. Because I really sort of miss that, when you're on tour, you don't get to you don't really get to play. You're having to play the show, so you don't really get to play outside of the show that much unless you're sort of doing a little jam session gig. Mm-hmm. So I'm just trying to set up a little thing. There's a local drummer, a guy called John Finnegan, who's amazing, and he wants to get involved, and there's a bass player that lives nearby. I just wanted everyone close by, so it wasn't too much of an effort for people to come and hang out and play for a night a month, and just try and create a little scene. And,
that's great.
have people, because it's very different. I know in the US you have a lot of that. There's live music is quite respected still. There's lots of bands playing in bars. Yes. We don't have enough of that here now. doesn't really happen that much like it used to. So I just want to have something where I know I've got a monthly or twice a month gig that I can go and just stretch out a bit.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's do a little random questions then.
Okay.
So what's your favorite book or movie, and why does it speak to you so much?
My favorite movie. I know this is probably very, very typical, a very normal answer, but I can watch Jaws whenever it's on, and I think I absolutely love the movie Jaws.
That's
I,
a good one, yeah.
I always loved it from when I was a kid. I think I watched it for the first time when I was about 5 years old, and since I saw it, I've been fascinated in sharks. I love anything with sharks on. I love sharks. But yeah, Jaws. I can watch that whenever that comes on TV. You know, when you're staying up late at night and you're switching through the channels and you'll click on a film that you know. Oh, I know that film. I'll watch it from wherever it is,
yeah,
even if it's the last
comforting.
10 minutes. I'll watch it. Yeah, I love the soundtrack. The John Williams soundtrack, absolutely love it. I did take my my kids and my girlfriend a few years ago to the Royal Albert Hall with they showed the film and had the orchestra playing the soundtrack.
Cool.
Yeah, what an experience that was. But yeah, that's my favorite film.
Very cool.
I'm not really a big book reader. I normally, if I'm going to read a book, it's usually an autobiography of some kind. Yeah, I'm more interested. I like people's lives and reading about interesting people's lives.
Yeah.
You know, so
Very
yeah.
cool. What's your biggest pet peeve?
Pet peeve?
Mm-hmm.
People moaning on social media. people going, oh, just when life couldn't be any worse, and then just leaving it blank, and then everyone going, oh, you okay, hon? Are you okay? And then
you see that more on Facebook than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely drives me up the wall. People that are being negative on social media all the time drives me up the wall.
Thank you for that.
I do believe that I'm not a hippie, I'm not like a out there type of person, but I do believe that your whatever you put out energy wise, you're going to get more back. So if you all know those people that are, and I've been that person myself where I've been negative for a while, and I find that I'm getting more negativity back at me because I'm only putting out negative things. So imagine when you're doing that over the internet where it reaches so many many people, you're going to get much more negativity back. Yeah, I believe. And
you pick up what you put down.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to be involved in that, so in Facebook and Instagram for my work, but I don't get involved in any negative stuff. I don't really, I haven't got time for it.
Yeah, good for you. More power to you. Absolutely.
That doesn't make me sound like a hippie. I'm not a hippie, right?
You don't have enough hair on your head to be a hippie.
I have no hair on my head at all.
I'm just kidding with you. And then, yeah, I mean, I guess we're pretty much about ready to wrap it up, but
okay.
Most of my, listeners I come from like Philadelphia and was very heavily involved in the grassroots music scene there. So a lot of my listeners are, up and coming artists from the Philly area. So,
right.
What do you think could be the best advice you could give to anybody, picking up a guitar for the first time or starting a band? Like, you've kind of been in the music biz, as you could say, or scene from early on, and you're still here, thriving and doing well. So what's some advice that you could throw out?
I actually think that the thing I was talking about before of actually making sure that you're good, making sure that you're giving out an energy in your music. God, that sounds like I'm being a hippie again. but I'm really missing that kind of music where you can just 100% feel it. There's too much music that's made when someone just presses a button and the track goes. And,
it's all about connecting.
And we are seeing with the internet now, the way the world is, we're able to see amazing talent and people doing homegrown things. I think that's great. You know, I think the more, how do I say it? The more, you know, there are artists that you can tell they're artists, and then there are artists that you can tell are just a vehicle for something. And I'm really interested to hear artists. You know, I don't listen to a lot of new music, unfortunately. I perhaps should, and you know, I'm more likely to put on a James Taylor record or a Ray LaMontagne record these days at home, or you know, our record collection on vinyl. And that stuff tends to sound better because it was made before. It was made a while ago, and I like the way those records sound. But saying that, there are some new artists coming out where they're really focusing on their lyrics, and they're really focusing on their melody and their song structure. I think that's a good thing. So that's my preference, and I'm a 48-year-old man who's bald from England. What do I know?
But you're talented, so.
Oh well, that's debatable. That's debatable. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Rob. I appreciate you coming on to my podcast. Brandi is going to
problem.
hell, and yeah. So
thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks for joining me in this time of isolation to bring back the good vibes. So I appreciate it.
Bring back the good vibes. Yeah. We're all going to need them. I tell you what, there's going to be one hell of a party when this all clears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your Thursday.
Thank you very much. Stay safe, everyone.
And there you have it, folks. Rob Harris of Jamiroquai and TRIONIQ on Brandi is Going to Hell. You can follow Rob everywhere online. You can find him on Instagram at Rob Harris GTR, Twitter at Rob K. Harris, and on Facebook, Rob Harris Music. He's an insanely talented man. I'm so stoked that he was able to come on the show. Please check out TRIONIQ on Spotify, Apple Music, where have you. Their latest EP, Duh, is so rad and super smooth, and I think you'll really dig it. Many thanks to my awesome boyfriend Mike for hooking me up with Rob to get him on the show. As for me, I'm Brandi Lukas. You can find me everywhere online at Brandi Lukas. That's Brandi with an I, Lukas with a K, except TikTok. That's at Brandi is Going to Hell. Until next time, smell you later.